Hi, it's Jo from Minerva. Today I'm going to do a sew along of the I Am Juliette blouse, which is a short sleeve blouse. It's quite a boxy shape with tiny little neat collars, and it's got buttons down the back and then this sort of second little collar that comes out at the top of the button band. I've used a Swiss dot, which is a really light cotton, a little bit like a sort of single gauze or a cheesecloth gauze, and it's got these little tiny dots on it. It's called tufted Swiss dot. So these are like little puff dots, and the pattern is I Am Juliette, which is a French company. It's quite a petite pattern, so it comes in quite small sizes. So it's European sizes 36 to 46, but don't be confused because that's not the bust size. It goes from a 32.5-inch bust up to a 40-inch bust. So to get this sort of ease of fit that I've got, I've cut the second to largest size. If you've not done made a shirt before or done collars, then this is a really great pattern for introducing you to the world of shirt making, because the collars aren't interfaced and the stand is already included, and the button band is a fold over from the back piece, so you don't have to make a separate button band. It's really easy to make. There's 6 steps in the instructions, and it's a really great introduction to shirt making. And here's how I made the I Am Juliette blouse. You need to pre-wash the fabric so it will go a little bit wrinkly, and then you can give it an iron. It's probably best to iron this on the reverse because it's a Swiss dot and we don't want to spoil all the little tufts. You've got your buttons ready for finishing at the end, matching thread, and your I Am Juliette pattern, which is a paper version, and an instruction booklet. The instructions are quite easy, there's not lots of them, so a bit of preparation, cutting, joining it together, sewing in the sleeves, adding the collar, adding the buttons, so it's pretty quick. So cut out, mark all your notches, and then we can start to sew. It's a really great introduction to shirt making because the collar has the stand attached, so you'll have 2 lots of collars. There's 2 back pieces with a button band that you need to mark, your short sleeve shirt sleeve, and your bodice fronts with a dart that you need to mark, and there's also little notches for matching up your sleeves. Okay, let's start to sew. As I've said, this is a really easy beginner's shirt, so the first thing we're going to do is to sew the darts. So the darts are marked on the reverse. I've used a carbon paper and a wheel. That's how I like to do it. And we're going to bring those dotted lines together. And I don't like too many pins in because it just gets in the way. So I'm going to put 1 at the beginning and 1 to mark towards the end, and sew along the dart. And I'm going to start, whoops, pin's on the wrong side. I'm going to start at the wide end and sew to the narrow end. I'm not going to back tack at the narrow end because then you get a little bubble right at the tip of the dart. So I'm going to sew it forwards and back at the beginning, and then when I get to the end of the dart, I'm just going to try and take it as gradually off as I can, and then do 1 or 2 air stitches at the end. Air stitches are where you take the last 1 or 2 stitches off the end of the dart, because then the little bit of slack that's in those 2 stitches is what you'll tie your knot with, so that your knot doesn't make a pocket at the end as well. Tie those off, keep yourself and your work tidy, and then press out your dart. Going to press your darts down towards the hem, and you should get a really smooth end on your dart apex if you've gradually taken the dart off this seam line. So you can put the side piece, the front piece aside, and now we're going to work on the back pieces. So there was a button band line down the back, and with the iron you're going to press that fold in, and that makes a button band. This one's not got interfacing, it is quite a light fabric, but I'm going for a light summer top. If you feel like you need a little bit of interfacing in there, you can do that, but it's not crucial. You'll have to make that call based on your fabric. And we're going to do 2 rows of top stitching so that we have a button band showing on the right side. So you've done all the prep for the front and the back, darts in the front, button band on the back, and now we're going to put the fabric right sides together at the shoulder seams. There aren't any shoulder notches, but just make sure that you've got your shoulders even. If you need to do any type of shoulder adjustment, you need to have done that before this stage now. You just sew across the shoulder seams and then finish your edges. Step 3 is to apply the sleeves, and you're going to apply those while the top is flat. So open out your blouse and have the arm cycle in front of you, and then you're going to make sure that the notches match up to the notches here, and the notch that's on the top matches the shoulder seam. So I'm going to do the shoulder seam first, and make sure that my seam allowances are either open, or if you've zigzagged them together, they're facing the back, and ease the sleeve in. So you put the pin on the top, match the notch on one side, match the notch on the other side, and then you can ease in all of the rest of the fabric. So you're going to have a little bit more fabric at the sleeve head, and that's what makes room for your shoulder. So here, where there's more fabric than this line, we're going to sort of pin in half, and then we're going to pin in the next half, and we're going to put like tiny little hillocks in the fabric, and we're going to sew it from the blouse side, not from the sleeve side. And you can put in lots and lots of pins, loads and loads and loads, you know, this many, and sew the sleeves in flat. So your sleeve head should be nice and rounded. You can press that out on a ham. I haven't pressed mine yet. If you need to clip the curves a little bit, you can, to get this curved edge here. Next, we're going to sew the side seams. So we fold it right sides together. This is number 4 on the instructions, and we're going to sew from the end of the sleeve to the armpit pivot, and then down to the bottom to the hem, and back stitch here, and then finish the edges. And then it's time to start looking at the collar. Okay, this is one of the easiest collar patterns I know. So instead of having the stand and the collar separate, it's all one piece. And as with any collar work, marking on your seam allowances makes for a really accurate collar. So you need a 3/8 seam allowance. So I'm going to draw that on so that I definitely know that I'm going to have collars that are the same. So I'm going to mark 3/8. This is on the wrong side, so it's fine that it's drawn on. Just using a seam gauge to get my 3/8. I'm going to keep marking that on both collars, and then I'm going to use that as my sewing guide. Sometimes on a pattern, the collar seam allowance will be different to the main seam allowance, so do check that out if you're using a different pattern. the collar seam allowance will be specified. And this one asks you to stop 3/8 from the end. So I'm not going to sew past there. I'm just going to sew up to there. So now I know where my pivot points are. So my pivot points are here and here, and I'm going to stop 3/8 from the end, and I'm going to do that on both collar pieces. It's especially important on these collar pieces to get the seam allowances accurate, because you're going to have 2 points on your collar. So the front has points and the back has points, so you want those to look the same. So you want to get these points level and these points level, and the little gap at the end is so that you can apply the one side of the collar and then the other side will be folded up. When you've made your collar accurately, you then need to clip into the corners. So there's one there just above the curve. I'm going to take this corner off, and we're going to take this corner off. This pattern hasn't got an interface collar, it's a very soft collar, but if you want to interface it, you can. If you interface it, then you might need to layer out some of these seams, so you'll need to layer out the one that's got the interfacing on. So layering out is when you take half of the seam allowance off one side. Just gives you a little bit more, a little less bulk where you've got corners turning. You can clip these seams on the curve and then turn your collar out and really get a lovely point. I use my seam gauge, which has a point turner on the end, but be gentle, especially with this fabric, this Swiss stock fabric, because it's quite a light fabric, but you really want to work that corner so that you get a really good point like this, because that's what you want both of your collars to look like. So just keep working it. If you start jamming a knitting needle and things in there, you can sort of poke through, so be gentle. And of course you've got 2 points to work out on here because it's a double collar, so you'll have points at the back and points at the front. And then you're going to press your collar and do the same to the other one. I don't normally swap around the order of the instructions for a sew along, but I do want to on this one because it asks me to apply the collars and then iron under 3/8 on the wrong side. So I've done that now while I can get the iron at it, and it also helps me to see which is the wrong side and which is the right side. So you could try that if you'd like to. Okay, you put one collar on at a time. So with right sides together, for me that's the side that's not ironed up, I'm going to pin the collar to the fabric, right sides together, so I've got the end matching up, and I've got a clip in the center which shows me that that's where the center of my collar will go. And I'm going to sew this at 3/8, and remember we left 3/8 unstitched when we were stitching the 2 collar pieces together, so we're just going to sew here and then we can repeat for the other side. Okay, once you've got the collar on, you will then need to clip this curve. Actually, I'm going to just check it's okay before I clip it, because once I clipped it I can't change it. And I've got that edge already pressed over 3/8. Yep, that's fine. So I'm going to clip this curve, especially there on the V, just into the seam allowance. You don't need to finish that seam allowance because it's all going to be enclosed in a moment. And you'll see why I swapped the steps around. And that's it, and that's the collar, and I think it's a really easy introduction to having a go at a shirt collar. So now you're going to flip up all of that seam allowance, and it's going to be tucked underneath the press that you just made, and you can pin that down. And remember, that's the collar and the collar stand. So I'll show you what it looks like pinned, and then I'll show you how to finish that. Now, you could just hand sew it down, but you can stitch it on the machine. So it's up to you how confident you are, how far along learning to sew that you are. So all of the seams are enclosed now, and then that collar can flap down and hang over the collar stand. So can you see there? That's where the collar stand would be, and then we're going to put a button on there and the buttons down the back. So I'll show you the back finish as well in the next few stages. Stage 6 on the pattern sort of assumes you know what you're doing, so you're going to press up the sleeve and hem it and hem the bottom and put your buttons on with one of them on that back faux collar stand. So there is the faux collar stand where that yellow pin is. So you need your first button to be in there, and you can space the rest out. And you can see I've pressed the collar, so we've got a really neat collar on the front. Made sure that you've got your two bits matching there. I have an automatic buttonholer, but you might have a 4-step one. With an automatic one, you put the special foot in, you put the button in the back. That takes a measurement. You use the bar here, clip onto your foot, and then there's a little handle that pulls down, and it goes down to here. So the distance between those two plastic stoppers is how far you're going to make a buttonhole. I'm going to choose a buttonhole because I've got more than one style, but however you make buttonholes is fine. I just recommend that you have plenty of bobbin thread. You don't want to run out of bobbin thread halfway through a buttonhole. So you're going to measure them on your top. It recommends 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, but it's up to you. You want one sort of definitely on this neck piece, on this collar stand, and you want them to be going vertically, because if you put them in horizontally on the across the button band, they'll split the edge. So the final stage is to sew on your buttons. If you click on the link below, you can also take a look at the other patterns in the I Am range. They're really simple designs, they're really classic, they're quite European looking, but they have got that small size range, so check out the size range before you buy the pattern. If you make the Juliette blouse, then please post up your top. We'd love to see what fabrics you've chosen and how you've got along with the pattern. Thanks very much for watching. I hope that's given you a little introduction to shirt making, and it might help you to get on board with having a go at your first collar.